Hey, welcome everybody to Rain King Insights. I know that some of you have been following me for years on YouTube and X. Other people have not joined my site yet. So, we've been in business now for 1 year, and at the Rain King level of membership, I put out a weekly focus list video of actual trade picks. So we thought it'd be time to give everybody a chance to see how we did in our 1 year trading results. So we're going to pull back the curtain and show you some results. All right, let me explain how it works. At the Rain King Cloudburst level, we produce a weekly video of trade ideas. And in those ideas, I provide a lot of annotated charts and I give you a lot of trade logic. This actually is a spreadsheet that's kind of a summary of an example of how we do it. We actually give you the date of the trade, the symbol, the actual setup, the pivot point, the stop loss, how much risk we're taking, and what our initial profit target is, some multiple of our risk. How big should the position size be, and how much beta the stock moves relative to the S&P 500. So we do this every single week with ideas. And in general, the ideas that are in green are pullback entries. There are certain times in the market where we want to make our buys on pullbacks. They're shaded in green. Then we have ideas that come out on strength. When the market's strong and we want to participate, ideas in blue are on strength. And then every once in a while, we'll spice it up with a couple of higher risk trades, whether they be higher risk volatile stocks, or they could be using call options. So we put this out every week for our members, and that's what we're going to look at the trading results for the past year. So let's go over it. The focus list of ideas has had 102 trades in the past 12 months. There's been 56 losers. We only lost an average of 5.2% on average, and that's including some that had gap downs. We had 46 winning trades. The average gain was 15%, and we'll show you the power of this risk-reward relationship because all of our trades, the bulk of them are capped out at gains at a multiple of risk, whether that be 3R or 4R. Now, the batting average is pretty darn good. We had a 45% win rate. That's a pretty good batting average for winning trades versus losing trades. And it's approximately a 3-to-1 ratio of risk to reward. At 3-to-1, you can do really well, even if your batting average is as low as 300. So we were batting 450. So that's really, really good. Now, what I'm about to show you is the results that we got. What I'm proud of is the results have been consistency. We've actually brought risk reward first in every single trade plan that we put together. And I'm going to share with you the power of being even a part-time trader. I myself am a part-time trader, and we use a weekly trade plan. I put out the video on Sunday nights, and it plans all the trades for the week, so you don't have to be worried about trading on Monday, Tuesday, in and out, day trading, swing trading. You don't need to do that to get some decent results. So let's go deeper. So when we look at the stats, one thing that I do look at is even when we get out of a trade, I always look at what the high water mark is. What was the top tick in that trade? It's not realistic that we would capture that, but I always look at that as the ultimate benchmark of how far the trade went. Now, in this analysis, we looked at it and said, if you took all the Rain King focus list trades that triggered, sometimes trades are on the sheet, but they never trigger, and we took a $100,000 theoretical account, it actually grew to 265,400, 165% gain if you used all the high watermarks. Again, top ticking is not realistic. So what did the actual focus list achieve? Well, we achieved a $100,000 account growing to $148,000, which is a 48% gain. And what's important is we've capped most of these trades at 3 or 4 times our risk. So they're all kind of capped other than the trades that we did not have a target, and we let them run because we knew they had really big potential. And we had a number of trades that made over 100%. Now the NASDAQ in comparison from July of last year to July of this year was about 20% over the same period. So we're already double that. Now the midpoint between the theoretical number and the actual number is totally achievable. And I'm going to look at a bar graph with you to make this a little easier to understand. So here we are. We're looking at a bar graph of the results. As I mentioned, in green, primarily most of the focus list trades start at 5% position sizes, and we use targeted exits at 3 times our risk or 4 times our risk. That produced this first bar, a 48% annual gain. Now, it's important to note none of the results here show any compounding, and there's no margin being used. Again, the theoretical high water mark of 165 is up here, but this midpoint between the two is totally achievable if you were really, really on your game and using position sizes more than 5%. That would have been a 100% return. So we looked at the focus list and said, theoretically, what if every position we took was 10%? Many of you are more aggressive traders. You have 10% position sizes, 15, 20% or more. Well, you can see simply even using a 10% position size was over 100% return. It's achievable. Now you might ask, well, what about 2025? What's the year-to-date look like? Well, we're up 29% year-to-date, and that's going through August 8th when we compiled all of our statistics. So it's pretty good. If we can do another 30% in the second half of the year, that'd be a nice 60% return. So when we look at this as a graph, this is the $100,000 we started with when we started our service in July of 2024. And this is where we ended up. This is out of August 8th. This is the 48% return. So what we simply do is, it's important to note, this is not a copycat model portfolio that's fully invested. So that what you don't see here is you don't see any drawdowns, swings along the way. All this represents is if a trade made $1,000, it moves the line up. If a trade loses money, it moves the line down. So you can see this is just steadily gaining or losing on trades and where we ended up after all the cumulative trades. You'll notice that in September of 2024, when the market was in a green mode, we had 10 winners in a row, and it moved the needle on the theoretical account. Then in November, after the election, right through January, more steady gains. You can see the account really moved during that period. And then, as we all know, between January and March, it was a tough period to trade stocks. And we had losers like many of us. We had 10 of 14 trades that were actually losers. But you'll notice we controlled all of our losses fairly tight. So the line went down, but not dramatically. Now, when the market went red during the tariff meltdown, we were actually using techniques that we have at Rain King Insights to short stocks. The only time you want to be shorting stocks is when the market conditions are in red. And we were actually making money. You can see we had a couple of really good trades and short trades during the tariff meltdown. Then we've had some steady gains from the follow-through day to the end of July. We had a couple losers in here, 3 or 4 in a row, but that's nothing compared to where we ended up. So you can see here that, there's a certain consistency and growth of the portfolio getting its return. We control risk reward, and it's a good batting average. We've done pretty good with our trade setups, and we share our whole playbook. Now, this is really important. Again, this is a weekly trade plan. You don't need to be in the market every single day to get some decent results. Now, it's important that, I put out a general market update every single Friday for members. And in that market update is when I'm sharing what percentage of your portfolio should be invested. I give a tight range of exposure levels, and that's key. That keeps you in sync for these trades. There are certain times in the year where we're taking a lot of trades, other times we're backing off and reducing our trading activity and using discipline. Now, don't get confused by all the busy lines on the chart. All I wanted to show you in this is I've taken the general market exposure levels that I actually printed in each of the reports every Friday, and I mapped them. So for instance, on February 7th, I had a recommended average exposure level of 85% exposure. And you can see how that dramatically was brought down as things were happening in real time for members. We brought it down. We were actually out of the market on March 14th. And then you can see we dabbled a little bit, and then the market was going into a meltdown. And you can see how our exposure level was very, very low. And then we got a follow-through day, and you can see how we aggressively put money to work, 23%, 35, 50, 60, 80. We really ramped up when others didn't believe the rally. We were making money. Things backed off a little bit in early June, and then they really ramped up to 80, 90% in July. And then in late July, we were getting signals that the market was deteriorating a bit, and we started to reduce our exposure. That's very important, and that's what you get when you're a Rain King Insights member. So we had a lot of winning trades. Let's quickly go through a few. We had a nice swing trade in GE Vernova, bought here, and we actually sold it for a 15% gain in only 16 days. Here's Palantir. We actually built up a 15% position size, and we sold it here, and we got almost a 38% gain in only a couple of months. Here's Robinhood. This was a really big trade. We made 113%. We had 10% size. We sold it really, really well with an offensive sell signal we talk about in our playbook, and we took the gains. Here's AMD, another short move. We captured a 24% gainer there. 22% gain in CrowdStrike, one using our pullback strategy to buy off the 20, and we sold up here at 500. DR Horton, we really flagged the turn in the housing stocks, and we bought some aggressive call options right here, the 145 calls. Within 4 days, they had doubled, and within about 2 weeks later, they were up over 433%, and many of us have taken delivery of some of the stock. I mentioned the short side. We have 2 videos specifically about how to short stocks when the market environment is poor in a bear market. So a lot of information there, and we made money. We made 29% on AppLovin coming down right here, and we did it in 4 days. Here's Klaviyo. We made 16% in only 7 days. We caught this bear flag, perfect entry, and we sold the stock well. So the Rain King Trigger Trades is a master spreadsheet I have of every single trade that triggers. There's a page above this, there's a second page here, but I wanted to show it's a real trade sheet, and you can see it's every setup, every pivot, every stop loss, and has all the losses listed, it has all the gains listed, and then it keeps the running total to show you the data that we showed you in this video graphically. So you've seen our results. Let's now improve your results. You know, do you want to get a copy of the weekly focus list video? It shows our playbook of trade setups, our logic behind the trades, annotated charts, and we give you my weekly watch list. In addition to that, you'll have access to our entire educational video library. It's over 40 hours of top-notch presentations. You'll get my general market updates weekly every single Friday. And we have monthly live webinars, coaching webinars to take all your questions. We do all the work, so you can actually focus, maintain discipline, and execute the plan. Controlled risk reward. You can be a part-time or a full-time trader using this weekly trade plan. And in the end, it's really about investing in yourself. I'm a firm believer that education pays, and you can make it rain. And if that's not enough to entice you to try Rain King Insights, I'm going to give you a coupon code. Use the Make It Rain coupon code, and you'll get 10% off a Rain King level membership. Now, it's not going to last long. It's going to expire on Tuesday night. So take action, get involved. We've showed you our results to make you a better trader.